What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having an amazing Sunday, an amazing weekend, and an amazing year. I figured I'd go live for a few minutes and just break down what's going on in the world. Every day is a bunch of different news stories. A lot is going on right now. I've touched on a lot of this stuff, but if you appreciate and like what I'm sharing and want to get through to some of your friends and family in a very honest, calm manner, share this video because I'm going to break down what's going on, and regardless of who you support, regardless of what you share, regardless of what you're saying on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and whatnot, you should understand this before you speak and share certain people because, this is the truth. So there's a lot of news sources, and Bernie Sanders supporters and progressives know this very well, that want Hillary Clinton and normal establishment politicians no matter what. The Washington Post put out 16 hit pieces on Bernie Sanders within 24 hours. New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, all of those news sources are corporately owned. They're owned by people who, the Amazon owner, Jeff Bezos, Carlos Slim is invested in New York Times. There's big political agendas behind this. So even if you love the New York Times, even if you love the Washington Post, if you share them, you have to understand there's an agenda. If you don't understand that, you're lying to yourself. And their agenda is not to listen to anybody. Bernie Sanders had a huge movement. The Washington Post and the New York Times and CNN and MSNBC, they did not listen to anybody. They're in a steamroll mode. They know how powerful they are. They're working with Google and Apple to put their news, to highlight it, to put it at the forefront. The Twitter CEO hates Donald Trump, so he's making sure that all negative comments are at the top. All technology media and literally written media, the mainstream media, is colluding for all out what they want. They want war with Russia. They want Hillary Clinton. They want establishment politicians to do status quo puppet things because that's the string. That's what they want. Whether you like New York Times, whether you like Washington Post, I'm not telling you who to support, but you have to understand when you're sharing these articles, that's what they want. They didn't give Bernie Sanders a chance. And he lost because that's the steamroll mentality of the mainstream media. Lie, 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 lie. It's impossible to fight with the truth because they own so much stuff and they blast it, blast it, blast it, blast it. That's the reason you're seeing all of this negative Donald Trump ad. How come you didn't see a barrage of negative George Bush ads? Because they didn't care, because George Bush was a puppet, okay? A lot of people that disliked Donald Trump didn't like George Bush. Why didn't you see a barrage every single day from the Washington Post and the New York Times, anti-hate, hate, 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 hate for 2 years straight? It's because that's who they wanted. They wanted Obama. They wanted Hillary. They didn't get what they want, and now they're throwing a big tantrum and involving the intelligence agencies. And like I said, whether you support Donald Trump or not, this is happening. So if you're going to share, tweets from John McCain and Chelsea Clinton, you have to understand what you're doing. You're supporting John McCain and Chelsea Clinton, which is pretty questionable. But these news sources, that's what they want. Every morning you wake up and you see negative, negative, negative. It's not because Donald Trump's not doing any good. It's just not true. It's because their agenda was get their politician elected. They steamrolled over Bernie Sanders. They steamrolled him to the point where now he's just a little talking piece of the establishment. He says whatever they want him to say. He shares New York Times and Washington Post articles, the same news sources that literally silenced him, smashed his movement, disrespected his supporters, and embarrassed him in front of the nation and stepped all over him. These are those same news sources. This is not a conspiracy. I'm not a whistleblower. You can Google it. Just look at it. It's all in front of your eyes. That's why I feel comfortable saying it, because I'm not making this stuff up. I didn't have to dig and do deep research. Every single day it's in front of your eyes. The New York Post, the New York Times, and the Washington Post, and CNN and MSNBC, they didn't want Bernie Sanders. So they're doing the same exact thing to Donald Trump, and they have everybody in a mass hysteria. And now you have, progressives and people who, want good things. They're sharing Chelsea Clinton tweets and John McCain. That's what we've become to. Now we're supporting John McCain, who wants the all-out war with Russia. It's literally ridiculous. And I want to say the reason that they're able to do this is because at a certain point, they always usually win. They silence Bernie Sanders because they write the script, they write the narrative, they write the story, and they just push it out through so many vehicles, through so many sources, through hundreds of millions of people. Boom, 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 to the point where everybody literally turns into sheep, where it's like, la, la, la. And then, enough people believe it, and that's happening now. I see good people who are literally, about a revolution their entire lives, and now they're supporting John McCain and Chelsea Clinton, and they think the Washington Post is great and the New York Times is great. And these are the same news sources that just cheated out the candidate that they wanted to win for an all-out war, for all-out corporation and politician, control. And even these news sources are contradicting themselves. They're saying, well, Republican this, Republican that. If you remember, right before Donald Trump won the election, they all said he was going to lose. They all said he had no chance. Even all Republicans hopped off his train. He said a bunch of times, he's like, the Republican Party is disrespectful to me. They don't like him either. Donald Trump did to the Republican Party what Bernie Sanders did to the Democratic Party. Blasted open revolution, let new ideas, new thoughts, and even to this day, Donald Trump, he's just playing the field. He's not a Republican. The Republicans don't like him. They're just as unloyal. The second Donald Trump leaves, they're back to their same old crap ways. John McCain, Paul Ryan, all of them. Same with all of the Democrats. So, like I said, I'm not here. I have enough videos explaining how I feel about stuff because I actually research and I'm honest with myself, and I love the American people and I love the people of the world. I don't wish war, so that's why I say what I say. But this video is not to tell you who to support, but it's to be very honest and very calm about, be careful what you're supporting, because it's really not what you think. If it was, all of these news sources, they would have been aggressively fighting poverty. They would have been aggressively fighting racism. They would have aggressively been fighting the prison system. They would have been aggressively fighting war. They would have been aggressively fighting the pharmacy industry. They would have been aggressively fighting the food industry. But they've never done that because they don't care. They're not trying to help you, and everybody thinks it's like a big thing, like, oh, these media are telling the truth now because they're trying. No, they want their candidate to get in place, because since JFK, we haven't had a candidate who could play by his own rules or was attempting to go outside of the global power structure, and the power structure that is the deep state, the CIA, the NSA, all of the politicians, all of the mainstream media sources, countries like China and Saudi Arabia. It's a big power structure that literally not only controls most of the world, controls wars, lies about wars. Tulsi Gabbard, I've shared multiple times, went on CNN and told them, you've lied for 10 years about the war in Syria. You're actually, Obama's administration was funding, they called them moderate rebels. That's the lingo you heard over the past 8 years, moderate rebels. Well, we're funding the moderate rebels because we need to take down Assad, and because there's no such thing as moderate rebels. You go to Syria, I have supporters and fans from Syria. They tell me all the time, there's no such thing as moderate rebels. That's a term that was made up to fund terrorists. That's what our last, president was doing. And I know, he looked great with his family and his pets, but we have to be real. Whether you support someone or not, like, you have to get down to the facts. I can't say I like Donald Trump because he's got a funny smile. Like, that's not a good example, because he's leading the free world and, potentially either making or breaking the future for all of us. So this video, I'm going to continue to talk about it as much as I can, because it's a really big deal and nobody seems to understand. A very small majority, I won't say nobody, because I think we have more support than ever. I think that the veil has been lifted, the light has been shined in, and it's unstoppable. But my honest, calm, genuine, real warning to progressives, because progressives are a massive movement. Bernie Sanders started a movement bigger than anything I've ever seen in my life. Think about what you're doing, progressives, because you have the power to shift whole mindsets. You have the power to shift whole, power structures and media. And a lot of you are now supporting, including Bernie Sanders himself, this same power structure and the same media structure that silenced Bernie Sanders and stopped any sort of truth, love, justice, unity from thriving. The New York Times and the Washington Post and CNN and MSNBC and Google and Apple, these are literally the companies that stopped Bernie Sanders. And now the progressive movement has joined the establishment, because Bernie Sanders is pushing for what established politicians want to do and the New York Times wants to do. And he's got tens of millions of brilliant, amazing, beautiful people. Progressives are beautiful people. But you have to really think about what you're doing, because movements like this only come once in a lifetime. You know, when Martin Luther King started a movement, they killed Martin Luther King. They killed Fred Hampton because he was a brilliant speaker. But they couldn't kill the idea. The idea, you know, was too far gone. So they, you know, they executed people in the movement, but the idea thrived. Now we have, you know, a free country, free of slavery and segregation. Like, these are things that existed not that long ago and suppressed a lot of people. But it was because of an idea. And we've had an idea, and now we're at a clashing where, you know, I'm very optimistic. I think it's already way too blown open. You have WikiLeaks, you have all sorts of politicians. The whole game has been flipped. The light is too strong. But if tens of millions of people join the oppressors during a revolution that's existing, it's just so digital that we're not out in the streets killing each other. The revolution is currently happening. You have a lot of progressives that literally were like fighting for the people, and now they're like the number one cause of stopping the revolution. When Donald Trump goes at these media sources, these are the same media sources that progressives have known cheated Bernie Sanders. They rigged the whole election. They've been lying to people about the war in Iraq and the war in Syria for 10 plus years. And as far as the deep state, you know, do your research on what they've been doing with cocaine and, you know, elections and all over the world. It's some really dark stuff. You know, that I don't even like talking about, but now is the time. You know, if no one else is going to step up, I'm going to step up. And there's a lot of people stepping up. But once again, I really have to say, pay attention to what you're doing, because the revolution's happening. And a lot of very brilliant progressives are fighting the revolution that they helped start and are fueling people like John McCain and Chelsea Clinton and the establishment media. This is real life. Like, you can't make this stuff up, and I'm very calm. I'm not being mean. I'm not being hateful. I'm not being judgmental. I'm not being, oh, well, anomaly, you did this and that. I don't do anything but stand up for what's right. I don't do anything except tell people the truth and put my well-being on the line. I put my career on the line. I could make 6 figures doing digital advertising and marketing, but I sacrificed that. I quit a job at an agency, a multi-million-dollar agency that I was working with. I'm not going to say, because, you know, I have respect and I sign confidentials and whatnot, but I've been there. I've done that. You know what I'm saying? I do this for the right reasons. And the reason I'm supporting Donald Trump vocally is because he is standing up against the mainstream media that has been suppressing people and lying to people. He's standing up against the global powers and the elite and the whole structure that is literally be suppressing. Like, if we play our cards right, 2 years from now, we'll be sitting around a table laughing like, oh my goodness, like, I can't believe they were lying to us about all that stuff, because there's a lot that has not been uncovered that will. It's just going to. You know, whether they do something to Donald Trump, whether they try to stop journalists, and you can't, it's too late. You know, the light is already shone. There's so many brilliant people, and I urge you, let it inspire you to do something. You know, I was inspired from this election to create this platform, and, you know, anybody that knows me, not only with this video, I work around the clock to share other videos, other people's perspective. Green Party, Democratic Party, the World Cloud page, that's my page. I upload those videos and share them to my videos. So this is what I do it for. And I just read one of the comments about the EPA. Environmentalists, I've been saying this on Twitter, just to digress a little bit. Don't expect the government to save the environment for us. They're just not going to do it. They never have. They did a good job of, like, kind of talking about it the last 8 years, like climate change and, you know, getting a little bit of hype. But the EPA is not going to save us. You know, I hope that it does. I wish that there were funds, but seeing firsthand, I can't speak for the EPA, but a lot of these little things, they were just slush funds of wasting money. That's half of the problem with the government, is they have such big budgets, they just don't care. They just blow all of the money. It's like $800 million for a website. It doesn't cost that much money. If every person, me personally, you know, people are like, Anomaly, you're supporting Donald Trump. What, you don't care about the environment? No, I'm on the phone. I'm calling companies in China trying to get giant air purifiers to Los Angeles. That's what I'm doing in my free time. I'm trying to bring giant air purifiers to Los Angeles. And if they won't do it, they don't seem like they want to, I'll build my own. I'm going to create my own. I'm going to work with scientists. That's what I urge you to do. You have to be the solution, because the government's not going to solve it for you. They've kind of held this over our head for a long time, where even, Bernie Sanders and socialism is this great idea of like, these people are really going to help me. They're going to help the poor. They're going to help my family. They're going to help health insurance. But the reality is that doesn't happen. The government has trillions and trillions of dollars now, and they don't do that. They don't help people. They don't, half of the country is poor. They're not helping people. Skid Row in Los Angeles is a national tragedy. It's an embarrassment for a free country that prides itself in loving its people. The government is not the solution. It's just not. I wish it was. We have to do it. We have to create solutions. We have to be innovative. We have to find things that work into this capitalistic, oligarchy society that we live in. So we have to do that. That's how I feel about the environment. Certain things about the environment that Donald Trump feels I'm not that happy about, but I do have faith and I trust that, stop focusing on all these mainstream media lies. It's going to be near impossible because they work with Apple, they work with Google, they work with Twitter, they have the Washington Post. They control people's perceptions. So they have you fighting over a ban. They have you fighting over illegal immigration that literally hasn't changed. They have you all of a sudden caring about things that have been happening forever. These environmental issues are ones that should be at the forefront. And Donald Trump is allowed to skate by it because all of the attention's diverted. But, he says he's an environmentalist. He doesn't show it in certain ways. But the truth, and this is something, as much as I have a lot of disagreements with Barack Obama, he says a lot of times in his speeches, he says the truth has a funny way of revealing itself. Whether you believe it or not, it's going to happen. So it's like with the environment, it's going to happen. Whether, people believe it or not, we have to be the solution. And we have to understand with oil, with, even Fukushima and radiation, these are some very tragic occurrences that are unavoidable. We've made a lot of mistakes. The human race has, and all people. And it's up to us to push through that. Like, we can solve, I'm very optimistic, we could solve environmental issues immediately if we stop BSing with the mainstream media and believing every narrative they do. If we use them and force them to talk about, environmental safety and things that will make the human race flourish, we'll get there. But we're not going to get there at this current rate. And that's why I made this video, to talk about what the media is doing. And even this video, it's great. I'm saying my piece, but 200 people are in here. That's amazing. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you, but I can't compete with Apple, Google, Washington Post, New York Times. Is this more true than anything they've said, over the past couple of years? Probably. It's a more honest, unbiased narrative, but I can't blast it out there. So I'm going to take off in a few. I think that did what it needed to do, but I'm going to put a donation link in the bottom. And, I can't compete with these news sources. Even, I work a job and I'm one person. I'm a one-man team, minus all of you. I'm not going to say I work by myself. It's a whole movement of all of us, literally. But as far as the technical issues, the editing, the videos, I do it all by myself. And I work for other places to pay for rent, for health insurance. So to compete with all of this mainstream media that literally has $100 million budgets, they have the Amazon CEO, they have all of these people, all of these conglomerates, they have Apple, Google. It's going to take a little bit of funding. And I'm moving in a month. I'm going to get a new apartment, a new lease, try to get a one-bedroom spot, make a whole nice studio where I could really start getting better, high-quality stuff. And I appreciate your donations, because I'm not just saying this. You can say what you want about it, but I'm competing with billions of dollars. I'm competing with tech conglomerates. I'm competing with teams of 500 people sitting in an office doing all this stuff, and we're winning. That's the crazy part. We're winning. We're thriving. I'm having a great year. It's incredible what we're able to do, even amongst all of this suppression trying to keep us down. We have to keep fighting. We have to go harder, because the light's been cracked. We can't fight with the darkness. We have to spread the light. And not just me, let it inspire you to do what you can, to talk to a friend, to talk to a family member, because it's a huge effort. It's not going to be one person. I'm working 100+ hour weeks. I'm putting my life on the line. I'm going as hard as I can, because it's just, I don't have any other option. That's my soul. That's my spirit. That's my purpose here. I didn't choose this life. It chose me. So thank you guys for the donations. And it's going to be very crucial moving forward competing with billions of dollars, and the mainstream media that is declining, that either needs to evolve and get better and tell the truth, or they're just going to fall off. And I'm going to keep rising. We're going to keep rising. Honest journalists are going to keep rising, because regardless of what they say, the freedom of the press, it's never been better for a journalist. Look at me. I'm a hip-hop artist, activist, like whatever, with a cell phone, and I'm competing on a major scale. So don't believe the freedom of the press. If you're an honest journalist on mainstream media, you're thriving now. If you're an honest journalist on Twitter or Facebook, you're thriving. If you're an honest journalist and you write for the Huffington Post or the New York Times, you're thriving. If you're an honest journalist and you do anything, you're thriving now. So the freedom of the press there's nothing wrong with it. The only thing that's wrong with the freedom of the press is the fact that all of the mainstream media is colluding to just put a giant smokescreen over the entire world. That's the freedom of the press. So I can't get behind the, oh my goodness, they're attacking the freedom of the press. Are you kidding me? It's the greatest time to be alive for a journalist. They probably would have blew my brains out, 15 years ago if I even tried to scratch the surface of what I'm talking about now. But the blessing of right now is there's too many people doing it, So once again, the more people that do it as well, the more people that spread the message, the safer it gets for all of us, because a lot of people are putting their lives, their careers, their social groups on the line to spread this message of peace. And God bless the fact that we live in an era, we have politicians and human beings who broke the mold of status quo lies and gave us this opportunity to do this safely. So I'm going to post a link below. Much love. God bless you and your family, and have an amazing week. I'll talk to you guys soon. I'll make some videos.